Okay, so in the first part of this tutorial, we covered how to use Boids script to generate an interesting aggregation of geometry. And we also learned how to export this to outside third-party software. Okay, we exported this one. I'm going to close this. Okay, and let's explain what is this attractor and repeller. So attractors will, you can add any geometry, but as a point information to make it as an attractors and repellers. So attractor will behave as attracting these agents. Repellers will work as obstacles. So if I just turn this cube on, I'm going to make some attractors and repellers around this geometry, around this world. So for example, I can make a sphere. You can make many. Yeah, I can make a sphere. Maybe I can make 2 spheres. For example, the size matters. So the bigger the attractor or repeller are, their forces are bigger, stronger. Okay, I'm going to make another sphere. And this one will become an obstacle. So this one will become repeller. And for repeller, I'm going to use a different color. So big repeller will become pink. The attractors will be white. And I'm going to right click and make a parent to collect these geometries together as a group. So right click to reset, and I'm going to call this attractors as a short attracts, ATTs, and drag this inside. So these two now is in a group. And you will have also a lot of different spheres. And even if you have one sphere, it has to be a child of something. So you have to make a new game object, say repellers. The name doesn't really matter. And you connect it here. Okay, so you have a group of attractors and group of repellers. You can add as much spheres under there as you want. Okay, now you have these boys, and you can go ahead and connect these attractors in the all attractors slot and the repellers to this slot. Yeah, and as I said, if their affecting strength is 0, even if they are there, it's not gonna work. So we can actually play and change the parameter and see how they affect. Okay. All right, so now the attractors and repellers doesn't work. So let's boost the, let's try to boost this up a little bit to make it faster. And I'm going to boost up the attraction strength. Oh, they're all gathering to that 2 points. That was too strong. So you can actually, yeah, if you make it minus, it becomes like repeller. Yeah, that's also a way of using this tool. Yeah, so if you find a good amount of, maybe you need something really small. Yeah, so you can just really play with the geometry, play with the force, and actually the size of the sphere itself, it affects the force. So you see that if when we made this to 001 or 001, it worked quite well for this small one, I think. Can be even smaller. Yeah, I think what we probably want is just to give a attracting tendency, but not like gathering there like that, isn't it? Yeah, but it worked well with the small one, but not really the big one. Oh, even the small one is still very strong. So yeah, you can work with it, and you can also move the sphere during the play, so they will stop getting affected. Or you can also scale it while you do it, while you run it. Okay, that's the attractor. And let's see how the repeller works. So let's make this into 0 again. Yeah, so they go back to their position. Okay, they're free. And let's see if they will avoid. Well, now it's so strong, so they're all going away from that thing. Yeah, so now what if we change the parameter? I think they're kind of coming back. Let's make this minus to attract them back. Then see if we can give a good enough, oops, good enough parameter. Yeah, so definitely it's affecting their behavior. It's about how we find the right parameters. When I set this up, I was working on a really large scale landscape project. So maybe this parameter is affecting too much. Maybe you want to find out like with a really, really small digit number. So please do try and see any of this can be helpful for you to shape. For example, you can use this to, for example, you are making a chair, for example, right? So you can let these geometries to avoid human ergonomic like body position postures, right? So maybe some geometries can be generated around that human shape, for example. That can be an interesting ways of using these obstacles, yeah, top-down input such as attractors and repellers. Okay, that's to say, there is this terrain settings. This was actually used for a landscape kind of application. So let's have a look. So for example, I have a sample terrain model. Let me bring that. Okay, sample site model. Okay, I have like a terrain model like this. It's like a mountain, very subtle. I'm gonna bring that to my models folder. For this one, you really don't need to use it. But I just want to explain this. So, you know, there is this function. It's you are welcome to use it if you need it. Maybe we are going to use it in the later stage. Okay, so we have this thing. One thing we have to do is we have to enable read and write. The reason is that because we have to read the terrain height geometry out of this. With human, we didn't have to do anything. Well, we didn't have to really use any information of that geometry. We were just copying it, right? But in order to read the terrain height, we need to enable the read and write. After you have done that, you can drag this geometry. And if you don't know where this is, you can press F while you select it, press F. It's like Rhino, Maya, right? Okay, so this one is a pretty big thing, right? So that's actually real scale terrain. So you can see that how different in terms of scale what we are dealing with, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, okay, I'm gonna just scale this down. Okay, gonna scale this down. You know, if it's a terrain, it's normally above ground, yeah. And what you have to really make sure is when you generate something, it should be generated above this geometry because it finds the position of the terrain in Z direction or Y direction in Unity. Okay, so after I have put this in, okay, I hope this works. So this has to be a two-dimensional flock. So let's say play this. Okay, and just for this case, I'm going to scale this small. They're too small. Okay. And if I start playing now, they are flocking in 2 dimensions, right? And if I let them snap to terrain, they are going to snap to terrain, but I didn't connect it. So I need to connect a mesh, a game object. So you see that I have a parent. You have to connect this guy, not the parent. The parent doesn't have any information, mesh information. So you have to go to the Boids and connect this mesh, and we can turn on the snap to terrain in the play during the runtime. I'm going to just disable this because we're not using it now. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna disable, say, play. Okay, so there is an error. Let's see what it says. So there's no collider attached in the default. Okay, okay. So because we are using using something like using a method to read the terrain. So not only we need to enable the read and write, we also have to add a component called mesh collider. Yeah. So once you have done that, it shouldn't have any issue. So once I play, I should be able to turn it on. Okay, I realized what is the issue because this script also reads the terrain's texture information, and this is complaining that there's no texture information. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and make a material for this guy and give a texture material just to avoid the error. Okay, so I'm going to go to material, create a material, say terrain texture. Okay, and for terrain texture, we are going to import a file. Let me find a texture. Okay. Okay, I have a texture file like this. So I'm going to drag that image here. And because we have to read the information from this image as well, so we have to read and write enable, apply. So it's really easy to forget all these steps. So if you get any error, please write it down somewhere that you might have missed to enable the read and write for both the texture and the terrain geometry. And you can drag this texture to the base map. So it's going to possess the texture and just drag this texture to this map. So yeah, I hope now it should work. And the boys, so I enabled snap to terrain, and this guy has the mesh collider. Awesome. I'm going to drag this one here. Okay, let's see if this works now. Once I play, let's clear and play. Nice. So if they're outside, they just go back to the sky. But if they are here, they are actually snapping to their position, which is a very interesting way of creating some cityscape or landscape aggregation. Okay. So that's the last thing is just something like, it's just a display of an error. This is completely optional. So you can display the error, but there's no material. So I'm gonna just give a pink material there, display the error. This is too big. So let's give something like 1. That's still too big. 0.1, 0.05. That's too small. It's kind of disappeared. So let's do this again. Turn it on. Give a pink material. So can give any other material, and 0.5, 0.2. Let's see. Yeah. So it's generated on the original position, not the snapped position. So if you want to see this in 3D, you don't use the terrain. You can, yeah, the display somehow it's not very good, but yeah. So this is not any rendering. It's just a display. It displays the error. So you can actually see where is center, where is the direction. So you can kind of compare. Let's see. So yeah, somehow it disappears. which is a shame. Yeah, so I think there it's not working very well with HDRP. But yeah, it's just an option for you. All right, cool. So also you can export a really high res image from here. And if you want to set up a camera angle that works very, for example, if you really like this angle and you want to snap your camera to this view, you can select your camera and say, go to game object, align to view, Control-Shift-F. And this actually aligns to your view. So you don't have to move the camera and rotate it. It's a bit complex. So this is this has this like post-processing filter. That's why it has that kind of blurriness and everything. If you want to play with that, just you can work with this post-processing volume and change some settings of intensity, so vignette, exposure, for example, white balance, for example. It's all up to you to, yeah, so this has some kind of like camera deformation. Yeah, you can also tick or anything on and just change things around, for example. Yeah, you can play around with beautifying with post-processing volume filter. Yeah. So, yeah. So, and how do you export this as a high-res image? Is you can go to Package Manager and Unity, search for. Oh, I should stop the game. Yeah. Unity. Okay, I think it's called Unity Recorder, or I hope this is the right one. So it's called Recorder. Let's install this one. This exports videos, but it also exports frames. Okay, once this is done, yeah, so once this is finished, I think you can find it. It's in a very weird position, I remember. So it's in Windows, General, Recorder, and open the recorder window. Yeah, you will see this, and you can add a recorder, and you can add movie, or you can add image sequence. So image sequence actually gives you all the frames of each movie frame. So if you want movie, you can have movie, but let me show you how to export image sequence. So the resolution should be always more than 1080. Yeah, more, higher. Yeah. So your final result, final video will be on 1920 by 1080. That's a fixed resolution requirement. So that is a 16:9 screen ratio like this. Resolution should be short side 1080 pixel, 1920 pixel on the long side. And if you just boost this up, you can use 4K. This is higher. And you don't really need anything higher than 4K. Yeah. But normally what I suggest is if you are exporting image, use 4K. When you are using video, when you're making video contents, just use 19 by 1080. Do not make anything lower than that. Yeah, that is not professional. Okay, so in my case, I don't want to slow it down too much as I'm also running Zoom. I'm gonna just use 1920, 1080, 1920 by 1080. And then you can use JPEG, PNG, it's okay. And you can also set yeah, I think you can start saving. Yeah, so let's have a look at the folder. What's gonna happen? So in our folder, I believe this is going to create a folder called recordings under project, and the image will start getting saved. So let me play. You can pause by pausing the play button or change the game, pause the game. So now this is not running, but it's still saving the frames. So we have recordings. We already have a lot of files. Yeah. You don't need all of them. So it's going to save all the frames, but there was nothing really coming to this frame. That's why we maybe can change the camera angle a little bit. Control Shift F. Okay. I'm going to deleted everything, do it over again. Okay, now I have everything, but I didn't start. So just make the default to be true, the play button. All right, now I have a very good resolution image of each frame. Is it good enough for video? Yeah, not really good enough for, I wouldn't say it's good for a single image. All right. Cool. Yeah, I think I covered everything that I want you to know at this very moment. Yeah, and even if you are not going to use this method, I hope you can try this because it's really good to have some knowledge in Unity on the way we go. Yeah, so you have something, you have these skill sets for your semester. All right.